Hi everyone, welcome back to Flexpo. I'm Ursula Tavender, our content director for the Flexpo event, and I am really happy to be joined today by Emma Jones, the founder of Work Buddy Coaching, and Rebecca Amin, founder of Rebecca Amin Coaching. So today in this session, we are going to be talking all about returning to work after a career break or redundancy. And I think it can be a really pivotal time in a career, can't it? And it's an opportunity to pause and reassess and move forward, perhaps in a different direction, and perhaps to just reassess what you want from your career and how you integrate it with your home life. So, but how do you get to the point of clarity and knowing what it is that's your next move and knowing where you go from here? And when you get to that point, what do you do next? Well, we are joined by two incredible experts this morning who are going to give us a really whistle-stop tour and insightful session that will show us all the answers to all these questions. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Emma to give herself a proper introduction. Welcome, Emma.
Oh, hi, Ursula. It's great to be here today. So yeah, I'm Emma from Work Buddy Coaching, and I've been coaching for about 2 years now after a career in human resources. And my focus really is on the sort of CV, job search and interview aspects of coaching. I do career coaching as well, but that's where I feel that I have a real passion and impact from my career in HR, and the clients that I often work with are people that are returning to work. I would say more recently probably those facing redundancy because of the situation we're in at the moment, and I would say mostly women, but a lot more men recently, which has been great. So it's been nice to work with a variety of different people, and it's going to be really great to share some tips and advice today that have helped my clients.
It's amazing to have you with us. Thank you so much. Becky, nice to meet you, and thanks so much for joining us today. It'd be wonderful if you could tell us a bit more about yourself, please.
Yeah, of course. So I am Rebecca Amin of Rebecca Amin Coaching, and I'm a career coach. So I work mainly with parents, but not exclusively, and very often that is mums, and I work with them really. So those people who are feeling really stuck, who are feeling they are not sure where to take their career next, maybe because they've been made redundant, maybe because they have been just feeling stuck and unhappy for a while, and I really help them gain clarity through one-to-one coaching or through group coaching, and really getting them to a point where they, as I say, have that clarity of what to do next, feel really comfortable back in control of making those decisions, and feel that they are on a path to being happy again in their career is the main aim. And also we work together on putting an action plan together to achieve that, based on what they need to do next to get back on that path to career happiness. As I say, that's through one-to-one coaching, also group coaching, and I also support some organisations with their sort of coaching support to very often mums that have returned back into the workplace or are heading off on maternity leave. And before that, my career was in talent acquisition. I did psychology at uni, and I'm now an accredited coach. So it's a great way to bring it all together. And yeah, and I love what I do. I found my path back to, to career happiness, and that's kind of the goal, is to help others do the same.
We're so lucky to have you both here with us. So before we go any further, I'd really like to talk to you, Becky, about the clarity piece. And I wondered if there's any particular tips that you can share with them around how to, what to do first and how to get the clarity they need around, what should the next move be, and how do you kind of get to the point of having that clarity after you've been on a career break or had a period of not working, for whatever reason, or been made redundant.
Yeah, and it can be incredibly hard, because particularly with the redundancy piece, if you've something you've not even asked for or expected, and you're just sort of feeling quite lost. But also if you're just in a job where you just don't want to do it anymore and you're not happy. And I think right now people in that situation are almost feeling a bit guilty, because they feel like they should just be thanking themselves lucky they've got a job. So it's right now there's a real two camps of people, but who could well still be feeling very similar. It's still that thought about, well, what do I do next? So the first thing that I always say, which sounds really sort of counterproductive, is stop trying to find the answer. And the reason I say that is because that's what keeps you in that loop, keeps you in that circle of going, what can I do? What can I do? And you kind of go, well, maybe I could be a contractor, or maybe I could, just go to a different industry, or maybe I'll just get a local job and it fits around the kids. And with every thought you rule it out and kind of go, oh, but no, because of this, or no, because of that, or I'll have to retrain, or I won't earn enough, or so when you're trying to constantly find an answer, you with that also constantly find reasons not to, and then you don't do anything. So stop looking for the answer, but what you need to be doing instead is really, really focus first on just building those foundations. So think about your skills, think about what you're really good at, but also what you really enjoy doing, and they're what you would call your motivated skills. So equally, there might be some skills that you've got that you want to develop more of, or that you actually want to stop using. So really get yourself to a place where you're really clear on the type of skills you enjoy and want to use. It's also really helpful to think about what you're interested in. So often, an industry that you're working in might not appeal to you, or you might have found yourself in a job where you're just not that interested in the content anymore. So think about the types of environments that interest you, the industries that interest you, but even just the stuff that you're naturally drawn to. So, there might be some common themes there. If you're someone, I don't know, that loves, I know we can't do it now, but, live music and being outside and, all those things and there might be, when you really look at why you're interested in certain things, there might be some commonality. So like I say, if you're someone that really loves the outdoors, and you might find that's a common theme in the types of things that you engage in, and maybe that's something to consider in your working world as well. The other thing that's really important is your values. So how you want to feel at work and what you need to get from your work. So for some people, things like recognition or support are incredibly important. For some people, the idea of being a solo worker and actually working from home may have been really difficult, and it may have told you it's really important to at least be part of a really cohesive, collaborative team. You might be somebody who just wants autonomy and wants to be able to be in their own time, do their things when they want to do them, and have real flexibility. So think about the things that really matter and that really give you a sense of feeling valued at work. And that will be different for everybody. And it's surprising actually how often it's not always money. People often think, well, I need to find a job that will pay me that number. And of course, we've all got bills to pay. We've all got, various outgoings. But what I always find interesting when I work with clients, and I found this myself, was, yes, there's a number that we need, but there's also a number we have in our head because we had it before. So don't rule things out because it's not the exact salary that you're used to earning. It doesn't mean if you reduce your salary that you never get back. If you decide to move into a career that's got a bit of a training ground, or you need to work your way up a bit, think about what you earn immediately, but also what you would earn in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, for example. So don't let that sort of, again, rule things out for you. So as I say, thinking about your deal breakers, what's important to you, what you want to do in your job in terms of skills. And then really a great way to go about it is just to think up and brainstorm loads of ideas. Don't worry about if they're viable. Can you do them? What training do you need? Can you move into them? Forget all the stuff that stops you doing it. Think about, just come up with a big long list, even if they seem crazy. If you find that hard, you could target yourself with thinking, okay, I'm going to add 3 on there every day for a week or something like that. Look on LinkedIn, look on websites like Prospects, look at the government sort of careers website to just find out about different careers. And then once you've got your list, then taking that and kind of going, okay, I'm going to commit myself to finding out. I'm not committing myself to doing it. I'm going to commit myself to finding out about 3 or 5 of those jobs. And by finding out, I don't mean just sitting in, your house Googling and ending up watching cat videos. It's really about really understanding it. Have conversations with people that do the job. Ask them the question about, this is my background. Would it be possible for someone like me to move into this area? What might I need to do to make that happen? What are the kinds of skills that do really well in this job, or the types of people that do really well in this area? Because when you Google things and you look at very black and white, here's what you need to do this job, it's really easy to go, oh, well, I can't do it then. But having conversations with people, you often find that someone might have made a sideways move and gone into a new area, and they can help you understand how that happens. And of course, making those connections increases your network, makes you visible. They remember you, they might then talk to you about a job that exists or a training program or something like that. So that panic of thinking you need to find the answer straight away, you just kind of need to let go of that. And doing that research really helps break down those assumptions, because it's really easy just to think, oh, I can't do it because of X, and it's going to cost too much money. There might be training programs out there where you can train and be paid at the same time to do something. Lots of companies have returner programs for mums who have been out of the workplace for a while. So the sort of main tip would be, stop assuming it's not possible. Stop trying to find the answer. Really think about you, what you're like, what you enjoy doing, and then research, and then settle on some paths that you feel really committed to exploring further. And then just the other thing I would say as well is, I know right now it's really hard, and some people might hear that and go, great, but do you know what, I just need a job. And that's fine too, but I'm saying, you may just need a job, and therefore you may decide to take on something that's very similar to the thing you've done before. But if deep down, longer term, you want to make a change, it doesn't mean you take that job and that's it for the rest of your life. You might take it to just ensure you've got a salary coming in whilst you still do this other sort of research work and investigative work about yourself, to then, plan how you make that move in the next 3 years, for example. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing, now is forever. It's what you need right now, but also what you want to move to in the future. And essentially that's what coaching helps you figure out. But they're the sort of top tips that I would share for sure about the clarity bit.
There's such practical advice that people can take and immediately deploy, which I think is just so valuable. Thank you so much for that, Becky. I think it's really important to know that there's always something you can do, isn't there? Yeah. Isn't it? Like, it doesn't matter how small that thing is. That has really helped me in the past when I felt stuck, that even taking the smallest steps to help yourself and support yourself in some sort of constructive way can be really quite empowering, can't it? And to know that it doesn't matter how stuck you feel or how dire the situation can appear or how confused you are, there's always something that you can do to sort of help propel yourself forward in that little bit. But took me a long time to kind of get into that mindset, and now I'd like to talk to you around how to develop that mindset, and as you start to kind of develop your plans, how you can, I suppose, support yourself to develop that really kind of mindset of strength and confidence, and also really start to sort of build that into how you showcase yourself and how you present yourself as your plans emerge. Can we talk about that next?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it's a really good point, because it's all very well and good, isn't it? It's saying like, oh, have lots of conversations and do loads of research, but if you're feeling quite rotten about it and a bit fed up and it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, finding that momentum and that motivation to keep chipping away can be really hard. So I think, thinking back, so if you're sort of struggling to do something that feels really big, so if you're sat there, and actually I just had a coaching call this morning, and we were sort of talking about who can you find to talk to about this particular job, or who do you know? And she sort of said, well, how do I find them? But sort of finding ways that or tasks that you can do that are small things every day or every week. So setting yourself, like you mentioned just before, really little goals or tasks, and just really celebrating them. So even if it's something like, right, this week I'm going to find the names of 6 people that do jobs that I'm interested in. I'm going to send each of them a message, and my goal is to have 2 coffee meetings set up by the end of the week, and that's it. So don't overload yourself with, oh, I've decided I want to move into this area and I want to be in that job in 2 months' time. That just feels way too big, and you're not going to know where to start. So being able to take your kind of end goal and break it into smaller goals, and then those into smaller goals, and essentially into small tasks that are manageable in a week. There's no point saying, I'm going to do 20 things this week, when you know you might still already have a job, you might have children running around, you might have, you know, half terms coming up, you know, there's so many things that get in the way. So I would say never try and do more than 3 to 5 tasks in a week towards it, towards whatever your you know, your sort of focused activity is. So breaking it into smaller tasks. Also just try and recall, sort of just from a mindset perspective, thinking about times where you've been really successful, whether that's in your career, whether that's been in securing a new job, just times where you felt like, yeah, I've really achieved something. And just try and remember, well, what did you do to achieve that? What skills did you use? What kind of methods did you employ? And also think about, you know, what was it about that situation that felt so good, and how can I repeat that? So if it was that you sought support from somebody, then do that again. Find someone that can be your kind of accountability partner. If it was that you felt really good after you'd had a couple of conversations about something with someone that pushed you closer to understanding, you know, set those things up, repeat what's felt good in the past. And it's a good way as well is to ask for feedback from people. So LinkedIn is obviously great because you can ask people for recommendations. So they don't have to be your boss or your previous boss. You know, go on LinkedIn and do things like you know, connect back in with people and click the button, ask for a recommendation. And if you know you're aiming for a certain career path, when you ask for that recommendation, you can tell them what you want them to say. Obviously, don't write it out for them. But if you know the new job you're interested in or career you're interested in is a client-facing role, and you've been more of an internal person, send it to previous internal stakeholders and say, I'd really love for you to give me a recommendation. I'm actually looking at more client-facing stuff. Can you mention in there how I built my relationship with you? So it's sort of just engineering those opportunities. And not only will those recommendations help you, you know, your visibility, your profile, and what people see when they're potentially looking to hire you, but they make you feel really good as well when you receive them. So hearing really nice feedback really helps. So use things like feedback and recommendations. And another thing is just be consistent. There is no point just doing a few things one week and then getting fed up because nothing happened. It can be soul destroying if you have a week where you just feel like, you know, you've got another rejection from a job and things haven't gone great, but just keep chipping away, because again, the more you do, the more consistent you are, the more wins you will have. So just again, setting those manageable small things that you're going to do. And I'm thinking about a coaching call I had with someone last week. She was not in a good place. Actually, she was quite upset on the call and felt really despondent. And she got off the call and went and approached 3 people for sort of coffee meetings. And she sent me a message half an hour later and went, oh, I've got this meeting with this person and she works for this company. I'm really inspired by them and we're speaking next week. So just doing that one thing of connecting with somebody just changed her mindset and really spurred her on. So find ways to just achieve one really good thing that then really helps your mindset as well. And then the other thing I would say, just around sort of putting yourself, like you said, in the best light. So the recommendations thing on LinkedIn. And another thing, if you're looking to sort of, I guess, shift your career from one area to another, if it is quite a different area, then talk about your competencies and your skills in your LinkedIn profile and your CV. And I know Emma will probably talk a lot more about this later, but just being able to position your, you know, LinkedIn isn't it's not your CV, it's a marketing tool. So present yourself in the light that you want to be seen. Obviously don't lie, but you know, if you've got various competencies that might not be clear if you just listed out what you've done in your job, present what you've done, get those recommendations, you know, showcase all the skills that you have and the competencies you have, and make that visible to the world, and have those coffee meetings to make that visible as well. So I think human connection helps not only present you, but it helps your motivation and your mindset. Chipping away at things, small tasks, and just celebrate as well. Every week, look back and think, what have I actually achieved? Because if you get a job rejection on a Friday morning, the whole week seems rubbish. But if you think back to what you did on Monday, you might have gone, well, I did book that call and I'm speaking to her next week. And, you know, so celebrate and reflect on what's gone well at the end of every day or every week as well.
Again, some brilliant advice there. And I think it requires that courage, doesn't it? To kind of be bold and do those things, and test yourself a little bit to see the kind of results that you will get. And then, you know, if you do that in a small manageable way, that means that you can take those bigger and bolder and braver steps as you move along. So yeah, some brilliant advice there. So I just want to touch on with you both actually the kind of challenges, broadly speaking, that are involved with this kind of period of our lives when we're in that transition period for whatever reason, and you know, building on what you've already said, kind of, you know, ways to overcome those really. So come to you first, Becky, and then I'd love to chat to Emma about this. So Becky, what would your thoughts be around what the challenges are?
So in terms of the sort of biggest challenges people are going through, I think you know, obviously redundancy is a big factor at the moment, and it can really knock your confidence, and you know, you kind of feel like, well, you're just one of so many people out there looking to find that next thing. So confidence is a real problem for people, and you know, I would couple within that as well that sort of imposter syndrome piece as well. You know, just that self-doubt, feeling like there's better people out there than me, why would they want to hire me? But again, all those things I just shared about mindset and keeping focused and just staying on your plan will help. It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing, focus on what you're doing. That's what you need to worry about. Also, just I think particularly for mums, and if you've had a career break, feeling like you've been out of the game a bit too long, feeling like, well, you know, I've had 5 years out now with the kids and I was going to go back to work, but now, you know, there's so many other people out there and I've been out of the game for so long, they're all going to be way better than me. You know, don't underestimate the skills and the experience that having children or a career break has given you. It's not been a total waste of time. You've changed as a person and bring, you know, new things to the table as well as your previous experience. And again, just don't worry about everybody else. Think about your network, have conversations with people, because getting in front of people and having conversations is what will set you apart. Other challenges I would think about are you know, your network. Some people worry, again, with the career break, or if you're trying to change the area that you work in, that you don't have the network. You know, I no longer have a network of people around me in a professional world, is what often people will say when they've had a break. But often people think they don't have, but we all know people. You know, just because you don't know them through work, they're still your network. You know, that big long list of 30 mums in your class WhatsApp group are people that you know, you know, all those people that you used to work with that you're probably still connected with on LinkedIn and who would love to hear from you. You know, friends of friends, everybody. I think someone said there's about 150 people in a meaningful network at any one time, and they all have 150. So if you kind of think about it in that sense, a network doesn't mean people I work with, it means people you know. So just start connecting and having conversations with people about your situation, about what you're looking for, and use those people around you that are close to you to do that as well. You know, people hate the idea of networking and think it's really horrible, but actually right now it's a lot easier because you can just do it at your computer and you don't have to go and do that horrible, I'm holding a coffee and trying to eat a biscuit and someone's trying to talk to me and I don't know what to do. So networking can be really challenging and scary, but it's something we've just got to do. And networking means speaking to people. That is all it means. That's it. We're networking right now. Have a conversation with people and do it one-to-one, and do it slowly with people you're comfortable to talk with first. I'd say they're my top ones.
That's really key, isn't it, to sort of reframe the way that you think about networking? So, I mean, the kind of reputation of networking is icky, isn't it? Let's face it. And I think if you just, what you've just said there is like nail on the head. It's just conversations. It's just talking to people. Yeah. It's just, you know, getting to know people and expanding your, I guess, well, what they know of you, what they think of you, and what they know about your capabilities. So it does, again, going back to that courage piece, I think it does require that kind of putting yourself out there, which can make you feel a bit vulnerable, especially if there's a lot of other things going on, which is why I wanted to touch on the challenges, because it's so helpful to know that you're not alone, isn't it? And there's probably so many people watching this thinking, well, you just into my head and talked about the exact thing that I'm feeling and thinking right now. So this is brilliant, thank you. Emma, what are your thoughts on the challenges that people are experiencing right now?
Yeah, well, I would definitely agree with what you've just said about people having or not feeling like they have people in their network to talk to, and they absolutely do. I would say 100% of my clients, when we work together, probably get stuck for about 5 minutes when I ask them who might be there to help them, and then without a doubt, you know, by the end of the session they've come up with at least 1 or 2 contacts of people who can help them or might be in a role or an industry that they're interested in. So my kind of tip with there, don't rule anything out, and absolutely kind of approach it as a friendly chat. And I would actually say, if you are feeling particularly you know, vulnerable about going out and putting yourself out there, is to actually approach your friends first and talk to them about what you're thinking and what you're looking for, and sort of almost have a little bit of a practice, I suppose, with people that trust you and know you, to give you confidence to go and share that with other people. And I think the confidence in the networking comes from knowing more about what you want and who you are, and which I'll talk about a little in a little while, I think. But just, yeah, I think the other thing is lots of people sometimes tussling, if they've had a break, tussling with this work-life balance and parenting. They've got themselves into a fairly sort of secure routine that works for them, and it's the how am I logistically ever going to do this? How am I going to make sure that the children are okay, and that I'm available for this, and that I can give my full self to work? And I think that can often be a blocker for people, and it actually puts them off taking that action in the first place, and they can find themselves quite stuck. And I think this is where the research comes in that Becky was talking about. There are roles out there, we make assumptions that we can't make it fit, and actually I think through research and getting to know what you want, you will actually find a compromise for yourself. And yeah, I think it's just talking to people, researching, looking and seeing what's out there, and then trying to flex it to make it work for you. And I think that it's not until you're in it that you can actually start seeing the reality of what the future might look like.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, isn't it? That, you know, it really is quite hard to remove yourself from that and be objective about that, isn't it? So let's build on everything that Becky said so far around, you know, how to get yourself to this point of being ready to start putting yourself out there a bit more and experiment with being more so I guess in terms of applying for jobs and getting out there. What do you, I guess, how do you advise job seekers on what and how to define the job search tools that are going to be right for them?
Yeah, it's it's a great question, and it's quite a tricky question, really, because obviously everyone has an individual need from their next move. Industries can work differently, so I believe it's the work that you do with and on yourself to begin with that helps you define which way to go. So that's going to give you more focus, and it's going to give you a sense of control. And I think that's what I notice in my clients, is this lack of uncertainty, uncertainty, lack of control, and lack of focus sometimes with the job search, and it can be a bit scattergun. And I think seeing what's out there can work for some people. Sometimes it can work if we're feeling curious about a job path, but it can be quite confusing and overwhelming for other people. So I think, you know, it needs to be approached like any project, really, and it needs a plan and it needs a strategy behind it. So the first thing, I've got kind of 4 tips around this, and I think the first one is building your personal brand. So some of the areas that Becky has already mentioned feed into that, and I think understanding your values and your strengths and the options available to you, as well as your kind of personality and your unique experience and value to a business, are things that you really need to start understanding and honing, so that you can ensure every application, every networking opportunity kind of has this essence of you running through it. And of course, the more you know what you want, the more confident you will appear, and the more confident you appear, the more confident you will become, you know, and it kind of snowballs like that. So I think if you can build up this sense of yourself with some of the tips that Becky's already mentioned, some of the things I'm going to talk about, it's a great starting point. So there is a personal branding template in the swag bag that will be downloadable to anyone watching. So please, take that template away and have a look and think through that. And that's a little bit of guidance for you to start thinking about how that could look. So the second thing I would do is maybe a SWOT analysis or something similar. We all know what a SWOT analysis is, but I'll just talk about how a sort of an example of what the blocks and bridges might be. So it's trying to understand what might impact on your job search positively and negatively. So you might have a strength, which is, actually interview feedback for me in the past has always been great. I may not have got every job I've gone for, but I do really well. Let's remember what those things were. I'm a really tenacious person, and I know when I know what I want, I go out there and get it, and I don't stop. I'm curious, and I want to know more. How can I kind of use this process to learn more about these roles and myself? You might have challenges. So actually, I find it quite difficult to write about myself. I'm great at an interview, but I really can't write about myself very well. Do I need some support with that? Shall I have a practice at writing about myself in a convincing way? The job market is pretty competitive at the moment. How's that going to impact on my job search? I've had some time out of the workplace. That feels like a bit of a challenge for me. So how can I fill that gap and make my kind of narrative around that really comfortable to me and the employer? So opportunities, we talked about LinkedIn already. I've got 600 connections on LinkedIn. That's 600 people waiting for me potentially to contact them and ask for help or get connected with other people. You might have colleagues that have mentioned that you'd be a great fit for roles, so just following up on that or thinking, why did they approach me? That's really positive. And if you're in a professional network, so you might have a professional membership that's dormant that you might want to reignite, and all of the events and things that can go on around that professional network. And then I suppose thinking about the threats that we might have to our job search, and I think the biggie is the self-confidence and the potential kind of self-sabotage, stopping oneself from taking positive action and moving forward, and making sure that you have enough focus time on your job search and it isn't just being squeezed in sort of as and when. It is actually a project in itself that needs time and it needs nurturing. And there might be other things. There might be other family expectations. This is a challenge that actually can come up for clients, is that they might be thinking in one way, but their partner or their family might be thinking another. And sometimes that can kind of stop people from moving forward as well. So that's just an example of things that might come up before you actually start looking. Number 3 is digital versus human. So I think this is really important at the moment. So more applicant tracking systems are in place than ever, and there are literally thousands of applications for most jobs at the moment. So your chances are already reduced of kind of being seen by a human. So we know that many vacancies exist that are hidden and filled through connections and networking. And people like people to come as trusted and recommended and potentially be a good fit. It's not always the right way of recruiting, perhaps, in some circumstances, but it's human nature. We trust other people that work with us or know people. So it will be industry and profession dependent, but I would think about the social avenues to job searching. And I'm just going to kind of list through some of those. So friends and family might not feel like an immediate resource, but they absolutely are. Someone knows someone who knows someone who knows somebody. And I've worked with enough people now to know that that's true. Obviously, ex or current colleagues, LinkedIn connections. As Becky said, the world is far more open, it feels, to helping at the moment. It's become a more kind of humane platform to be on, I think, at the moment. Again, just thinking about professional memberships, the avenues that might give you. Informational interviews is a good way of not only finding out information, but connecting with other people that way. There's social media groups, lots of those at the moment for specific professions or for job searching. And I'm a big advocate of utilising the pre-application chat. So yeah, if you can speak to a hiring manager before making an application, that'd be great. So I just think be clear on what you need to know from people, and what you can offer so that you feel confident in approaching those people. And yeah, plan and reflect and trust in the process, because the more you do, the more confident you will become and the more you'll learn from the experience.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Emma. I just want to go back to something that we touched on really briefly earlier on, which was around injecting personality and authenticity into your job application. And I think when some job applications have quite a stringent framework, don't they? And it can be really difficult to see where the opportunities are to sort of show who you are before interview or before you get to the next stage. So very quickly, what would your advice be around how to make people see and get to know you at this stage, application stage?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I kind of advocate CVs with soul. And you're right, it can feel in some circumstances that it's quite rigorous, a rigorous framework that you're working within. But I think I'll start with authenticity, really, is first of all, go for the jobs that you really want to go for. Because if you're going for jobs that you're not that bothered about or you're not quite sure about, it's going to be much harder to be authentic about why you want them and why you're a good fit. So I think be clear on your values. The closer the match to the role, the team, the industry, the easier it is to talk genuinely about that fit. So really think about your attraction to the business, the brand, the employer, or even the end user, the customer, rather than just the job role. And that way you can kind of start to live it in your head, kind of visualize yourself being there. So when I talk to clients about their fit, we often unearth lots of links from previous experience that might seem quite tenuous to them, but actually they're really important, because every link makes the chain stronger and makes you unique to them. So you might have worked for an affiliated brand a long time ago. You might have raised money or volunteered for a charity that you're applying to. You might have won an award for a relevant project. And actually, you'd be surprised at how much people don't recognise those things and don't see the links to that business or that job role. So it really is linking that through. Personality is always one that people feel a bit concerned about. I again think this is about how your values fit. You know, that's the kind of grounding to that. It might be how your lifestyle choices fit with that company or brand. It could be demonstrating softer skills and characteristics by talking about people outcomes and dynamics, innovation and ideas, where you're actually kind of expressing yourself a little bit more. Or perhaps how you experienced something. What was a highlight for you from that experience? So not necessarily an achievement, but a highlight for you. You can include feedback from other people in your CVs and your applications to bring what you're saying alive and evidence it. That's also quite helpful for giving a bit of personality. Talk to the hiring manager before you apply, because then it makes you, more 3D. You're not just a piece of paper then. That could be quite helpful. And I think don't be afraid to think outside the box. I know someone who delivered a batch of cupcakes, which was her side hustle, to a creative agency that she wanted to work with. And she really wasn't quite sure about whether she should. And she got the job because, she made the effort, and she was really committed to the process. Really, really wanted to work for them, and it worked out for them. So I think the more you know yourself, the more risk you're willing to take, I think, to showcase your uniqueness. You kind of follow your gut instinct on that one. And a covering letter can say a lot more than your CV, so utilize that. If they're not asking for one, then you can always attach it on the first page of your CV anyway. You're not going to annoy anyone by giving them extra information that's useful to them. So, I think some people are like, oh, they haven't asked for that. Just kind of use your common sense to a degree. You're making an effort, and you're showing someone why you want the job. So there's quite a few things there that I believe you can get personality across.
It's simple things, isn't it? Actually, really powerful. And I think, sometimes it can feel like, well, is it going to go against me if I do something which isn't what they've asked for? But actually, that initiative and that is how you show who you are, isn't it? And how committed you are. And actually, going back to what you said about links, it helps people to make a link between actions that you take and who you are as a person, doesn't it? So, by doing that, by showing that initiative and putting that covering letter on, you're demonstrating that you are going above and beyond what they've said, so that you can show how committed you are and how much you want the job, and why really you should be the one to get it. So I think there's so much practical advice in there. I can't thank you both enough. This has been a fantastic session. I've learned a load personally, and I've really enjoyed speaking to you both. I know that everybody can come and speak to you on your stand, and you'll both be running bite-sized workshops throughout the day, so there's plenty of opportunity for our audience to engage with you further, to ask questions they might have. I'm sure everyone's got a load of questions after all of that. I will have brought up loads of things for people. Now, thank you both so much, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.